After 7 years of betrayal, he seeks vengeance, but an amazing truth is finally revealed. Jake Rivera wiped his forehead with the back of his hand, the smell of motor oil clinging to his work jeans like a second skin. Leaning against the grease-stained hood of a pickup, he gazed out at Maplewood, where autumn leaves danced in the crisp air. Once a proud mechanic, he now felt every pressure of betrayal sneering from the shadows of his childhood. His hands were callous from toil, but his heart was restless, yearning for something that felt lost, a friendship that had soured into enmity. 7 years of toil at Rivera Auto had been built on the pillars of hard work and integrity, values his father instilled before he passed. It crushed Jake to see the town tear at the seams of brotherhood while his childhood best friend, Mark Thompson, ascended the social ladder like a hawk soaring high above them. Mark had once defined their friendship with laughter and late-night talks about dreams. Now, whispers filled the air, painting him as the villain of his own story. Memories of their childhood flickered like fading embers, igniting feelings of grief and betrayal. New loyalty lay roughed up beneath Mark's polished surface, leaving scars on their once great bond. It was maddening. There were days his heart felt like it had been run over by a speeding truck. He couldn't work through the tangled emotions alone, searching hours for signs of that bond he treasured. Then the photograph arrived, a forgotten memory, tucked away in an old box. The image brought panic to his chest. There they were, two boys grinning ear to ear, a love for adventure shining in their eyes. But marking their smiles was darkness. Jake remembered the whispers, the backhanded comments, the moments that cracked their bond. Did Mark ever truly care? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The Harvest Festival breathed life into the town once more, with laughter echoing through the bright autumn colors. But Jake felt a storm brewing inside. Every smile he viewed as betrayal, every embrace of excitement a dagger through memories. He searched the crowd, his eyes locking onto Mark's self-assured stance, flooding his veins with simmering rage. When their paths finally crossed, Jake's heart thundered as he opened his mouth to confront Mark. Words tangled in his throat, the voices from the past reverberated louder than he could speak. Just as he mustered the courage to share the impact of betrayal, a loud commotion erupted amid festival games. The gasp of the crowd locked their gazes forward, revealing a family secret buried beneath the layers of deceit that intertwined their lives. As the truth shattered through the noise, Jake's heart raced. Everything changed in an instant, revealing that the history of betrayal ran deeper than they could ever fathom. In that moment, Jake found himself at the intersection of forgiveness and revenge, a bittersweet invitation to reconsider the past. Could the roots of friendship still grow, or was the divide too great for healing? Faced with the echoes of laughter fading into the distance, all Jake could hope for was a glimpse of the bond they once shared. The rumble of the crowd's whispers washed over Jake like a tidal wave, slick with anticipation and dread. The laughter around him dimmed, replaced by an electric tension that crackled in the air. It was as if the world had paused, leaving just him, Mark, and the looming truth. He forced his gaze back to the commotion, trying to piece together what had just unraveled. In the center of the chaos, an elderly woman clutched a weathered letter, its edges frayed. Her arms trembled as she held it high, eyes wide with disbelief. It seemed she wasn't just revealing news. She was unearthing years of hidden pain. Jake felt a tight knot in his stomach as he sensed a connection to their stories. 7 years, the woman began, her voice rising above the crowd. 7 years of silence after the day that changed everything. Mark's face paled, a look of sheer horror washing over him. For the first time, the confident mask slipped, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. Jake's heart pounded as curiosity pulled him closer. What kind of secret could possibly bridge the chasm between them? The elderly woman continued, detailing a family feud that ran deeper than any discord between old friends. It told of betrayals that spanned generations, alliances forged and broken like fragile glass. Jake's mind raced, piecing together the fragments he had nearly forgotten, family whispers that hinted at secrets hidden beneath the surface of their lives. They were all intertwined, but how could this be possible? Suddenly, realization struck him like lightning. Mark's sent the doors that swung open for him might have roots far more sinister than Jake ever imagined. Was Mark truly the architect of his own rise? Or had he been a pawn in a greater game? Each new revelation weighed heavily on him, morphing his anger into a complex tapestry of compassion and confusion. Jake felt the anger dissipating, and in its place grew a desperation to hear the entire story. He turned to Mark, meeting his eyes for the first time unguarded. There was no malice there, only fear and uncertainty. "Is it true?" Jake's voice broke through the fervor, raw and probing. "Did you know? Did you ever have a choice?" Mark opened his mouth to reply, but the words faltered, swallowed by the roar of emotions in the air. Their past loomed large between them, thicker than the autumn fog settling around the festival. Then the whispers shifted. Someone urged the woman to keep going, and she held the letter tighter, her voice trembling with the weight of the truth. "The betrayal wasn't just yours, Jake, it never was." The world shook beneath Jake's feet as the weight of her words settled in. Betrayal ran much deeper. It was an ancestral wound, one they both bore. Jake felt the nerve endings in his body electrified. The battle lines he'd drawn felt meaningless now. Guilt crept in, taunting him with thoughts of solidarity that might have existed instead. As the crowd gasped in unison, Jake looked back at Mark, the flicker of their childhood bond stirring just beneath the surface. Did they stand at the edge of a new understanding? With every heartbeat echoing through the silence around them, Jake realized that this moment could either tear them apart further or weave them back together. He took a breath, the air thick and heavy, and whispered, "We need to talk now." But as they stepped closer, ready to face the truth of their lives, a sudden scream pierced through the chaos, freezing them in place. What new revelation was about to emerge? The scream cut through the air like a knife, sharp and jarring. It sent a ripple of shock through the crowd, and all eyes turned toward a young girl standing at the edge, her face pale and terrified. She pointed toward the entrance of the festival grounds, her voice trembling as she cried out for help. "Someone's hurt," she shouted, her voice barely breaking through the noise. Jake's heart raced. In an instant, the crowd that had gathered to feast on their intrigues shifted into a sea of concern. He glanced at Mark, whose expression morphed from horror to a fierce urgency. They both instinctively moved toward the sound, propelled by the same instinct that had tied them together since childhood. As they pushed through the throngs of people, Jake caught fragments of murmured fears. "Is it an accident? What happened? A fight?" Each question hung in the air, heavy with panic. They reached the front, and there, crumpled on the ground, was a man. Blood pooled around him, rendering the vibrant grass a shocking crimson. The sight was visceral, almost surreal. The world around them blurred, and for a moment, it felt like they were trapped in a nightmare. Jake's gut churned. A man lay broken, but eerily familiar. "Mom? Dad?" The man croaked weakly, reaching a trembling hand toward the sky as if calling for someone long gone. Mark jolted next to him, his face draining of color. "No, it can't be. Is that your father?" Jake asked, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. Mark's breath hitched. "I thought he left us." The words spilled out in disbelief, painted with a mixture of confusion and old anger. The crowd buzzed with alarm, and murmurs of recognition began to spread like wildfire. Someone shouted for a doctor. Another grabbed a nearby blanket, helplessly trying to stem the flow of blood. Mark, lost and startled, stepped forward instinctively but hesitated, his heart torn between the boy he once was and the man he'd become. Everything about the moment hit Jake like a freight train. Revelation after revelation thudded in his mind. The betrayal, the unspoken anger, the years lost, they all led to this point. "Mark, we need to help him," Jake said, urgency coloring his tone. Mark's hands shook, But he nodded, the instinct to protect clawing at the edges of his rationality. Together, they approached the man, their lives now tangled in a way they could never have foreseen. "Help is on the way. Just hold on," Jake shouted, moving closer. He could feel the heat of panic rising in his chest. He had to push past the weight of everything they had learned, the hatred, the history, and focus on the person in need. As he reached for the man's hand, their eyes locked. Recognition flickered like a flame just caught by the wind. The man's gaze was filled with pain, but also a spark of something more. Truth? Regret? It was more than Jake could decipher in that fleeting moment. "What have you done?" The man rasped, his voice barely above a whisper, but the questions were more than just words. They were laden with unspoken weight. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the answer. In that moment, Jake felt the strands of their shared histories tighten like a noose around them. Before he could respond, a flurry of sirens danced in the distance, a harbinger of change. Amid the chaos, Jake turned back to Mark, his heart pounding with uncertainty. "What are we going to do?" Fueled by the urgency of the moment, Mark opened his mouth, but no words came out. Instead, a flicker of understanding passed between them, and the possibility of confronting their past stretched before them like an open road. Would this moment redefine their bond, or would it crack it wide open? As the sirens drew closer, Jake felt the pull of fate tightening around them. "Are we ready for what comes next?" he whispered, knowing that their lives were about to change forever. Mark stared at the man on the ground, shock paralyzing him. He had spent years unearthing the layers of pain that came from having a father who vanished, a father whose absence had shaped his entire life. But now, with the man bleeding before him, all that history and hurt twisted painfully in his heart. "Why no?" Mark whispered, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Why wouldn't you come back when we needed you?" Jake felt a weight shift in the space between them. It was as if the air thickened, layered with a history neither could avoid any longer. The sirens blared louder, but that sound felt distant compared to the raw emotion surging right there in the moments they shared. "Mark, we can figure this out," Jake said. He reached out but hesitated, feeling the trembling of his friend's heart through their shared silence. It was like a compulsion, a pull that urged him closer. The old man's breathing was ragged, each inhale accompanied by a groan of pain. "I was wrong," he gasped. "I made mistakes." Jake glanced at Mark, whose face tightened. "Mistakes? Is that what you call it?" The man squeezed his eyes shut in a slow nod. "I was afraid you wouldn't forgive me." "Forgive you?" Mark scoffed, the bitterness pouring out of him like venom. "You left us. You didn't care." The crowd buzzed with apprehension, some people whispering and others pulling out their phones to record. Each chime of a camera shutter felt like an affront, an invasion of this threadbare moment. Yet Jake was acutely aware of the watchers around them, but he pushed himself to focus only on Mark's turmoil. "Mark," Jake said, trying to break through the anger wrapped around his friend like a cloak. "He's still your father." "If there's any chance of what?" Mark cut him off, voice sharp like glass. "Of crying? Of letting him back in? After everything?" Silence hung like a storm cloud, thick and choking. The sirens were now practically at their backs, wailing, demanding attention. The distant chatter of the festival seemed to vanish, leaving only the breath of wind weaving in and out around them. Mark, the man rasped again, his voice desperate. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you. But I was scared. Scared of what I would take from you." The sirens grew deafening, but Jake leaned closer. "We can't change the past. But we can still do something now. We can help him, help each other." Mark's fingers twitched, hovering just inches from the man's hand. He was caught, wrestling between anger and a faded yearning for a father's love. After what felt like a lifetime, he shook his head slowly. "What do you know about forgiveness? You left us, Dad. We had to grow up without you." The weight of that truth crashed against them all like a powerful wave. Jake felt his insides twist as he watched Mark struggle to reconcile what was unfolding. "I'm sorry," the man's voice was barely a whisper now. "I just wanted to." "You wanted what?" Mark's voice broke, anguish spilling out. "To disappear again? To leave us, I don't know if I can do this. Just then, paramedics surged into the scene, their authority cutting through the emotional frenzy. As they worked quickly over the man, the air shifted. Shadows of doubt lingered, but urgency pressed down hard. I need to know what he means, Mark breathed, his voice raw yet almost pleading. Jake met his gaze, feeling the urgency thrumming between them. Then let us stay. Let us uncover the truth together. For better or worse. As they hovered under the cacophony of chaos and healing, something shifted the possibility of understanding, the rift inviting repair. But just as Mark opened his mouth to reply, a figure emerged from the edge of the crowd, someone unexpected, someone they both knew. Is this the help you were hoping for? The newcomer called out, their voice cutting through the haze. Jake and Mark turned, minds racing. Would this reveal fracture everything they had just started to rebuild, or could it lead to the answers they truly craved? The voice sliced through the tension like a knife. Mark's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage as he turned to face the newcomer. It was Lily, his younger sister. She looked out of breath, worry etching lines across her features. In that moment, her eyes locked onto the man on the ground before shifting to Mark, desperation written all over her face. What is happening? She stammered, glancing between the paramedics and her father, whose life was teetering on the brink. The world around them seemed to fade into a blur of noise, the sirens blaring, the festivities distant and muted. Mark felt a swell of conflicting emotions rise up within him: anger, fear, protectiveness. Yes, back, Lily. After all these years, he said, choking on the words. Lily's eyes widened. After all he put us through? After everything? Her voice trembled, and Mark could see the hurt she still carried, a mirror of his own feelings. Dad, she said slowly, her voice almost a whisper. Is it really you? But the man could barely respond. His breaths were shallow and uneven. The sight stirred something deep within Mark, an unsettling mix of longing and rage. He stood there, feeling the weight of his sister's hope crashing against the walls of resentment he had built. Lily, this isn't a fairy tale, he warned, his voice pointed. We can't just pretend everything is okay because he showed up. No one's asking for a fairy tale, Mark. She shot back, tears pooling in her eyes. But he's our father. No matter what he did, he's still what? Mark interrupted, frustration boiling over. Still a coward? I can't do this. You don't know how many times I wished he'd just come back and make it right. But now he's. Mark gestured wildly to the scene unfolding. The paramedics were struggling to stabilize their father. Every pulse of pain and regret tightened Mark's chest. He hated the man for leaving, but hated himself even more for wanting to let him back in. Jake stood between the siblings, sensing a fracture forming in their clashing emotions. We can't afford to crumble now. Not when. Not when what? Mark snapped, rage mixing with despair. Not when he's just going to leave again. How can we trust him? Lily looked at Jake, pleading. What do we do? He needs help, but Mark. Just stop. Mark cried, feeling overwhelmed. Everyone's just standing here letting this happen. We're supposed to be a family. But how do we even start over? As if the universe was listening, the old man managed to croak out, I never meant to lose you. I need you both. I need to make it right. The paramedics rolled the man onto a stretcher, and Mark felt a hard pull in his heart, a tug of emotions that he tried to smother. Lily stepped forward, tears streaming down her face as she took a shaky breath. I just want to know the truth. All these years, Dad. Why? But just as the paramedics wheeled him away, the old man's eyes fluttered open momentarily, locking onto Mark's. You don't understand. It was never about you. It was about me, my own fears. As the stretcher disappeared into the chaos, Mark felt a storm brewing in his chest, a mix of confusion and the desperate need for answers. What do you mean? He called out, but it was too late. In the flurry of movement and exchanging glances, he realized they might never have that chance again. Lily turned to Mark, searching his face. Do you think he's telling the truth? Is it really about his fears? Mark was quiet, the question weighing heavily on him. I don't know, but I can't let it end like this. We need to dig deeper, find out why he left. With a final, lingering gaze at where their father had been, they exchanged an unspoken agreement. They had to unravel the truth together, even if it meant confronting their deepest fears. But just as they began to move away from the lingering crowd, Mark spotted something on the ground, a crumpled piece of paper. His heart raced as he picked it up. Could this be the lead to something significant? He opened it slowly, revealing a note scrawled in familiar handwriting. "I'm sorry. You deserve to know the truth. Find me." As chills danced down his spine, Mark knew they were just at the beginning of a journey that could either shatter their world further or finally heal the wounds of the past. What awaited them on the other side of this revelation? Mark stood frozen for a moment, his eyes scanning the hastily written note. The handwriting was unmistakable. It belonged to the man who had caused them so much pain and confusion. His fingertips trembled as he clutched the paper, a wave of anger and betrayal crashing over him. "Mark?" Lily's voice broke through the haze, her brow furrowed with concern. "What does it say?" He swallowed hard, torn between the desire to share and the urge to protect her from more hurt. He says we deserve to know the truth. That he wants us to find him." "Find him?" Lily echoed, her voice thick with disbelief. "After everything? Why no?" Mark crumpled the note in his fist. "I don't know, but it feels like a trap. Like he's trying to grab hold of us again. We can't just chase after him without knowing what's at stake. What if this is our chance, Mark? What if he actually wants to fix things?" Her eyes were pleading, shining with a flicker of hope he found difficult to match. Mark raked his fingers through his hair, his heart pounding. "And what if it's another lie? We've been through so much already. We can't let him pull us back into his web." As the sounds of the festival echoed around them, a distant laughter, the rustle of excited voices, Mark felt a knot tightening in his stomach. All he wanted was peace, and facing their father again felt like stirring a dark storm that had long since settled. "Look," he finally said, turning to face Lily. "We need answers. But if we do this, it's on our terms. We go in prepared." "What do you mean?" she asked, skepticism lacing her tone. "I mean we shouldn't rush into this blindly. He's played with our hearts before. We need a plan. We gather what we can, talk to anyone who might know something, and then we confront him." Lily nodded slowly, but Mark saw the uncertainty flicker in her eyes. He wished he could take away her doubts, promise her a fairy tale ending, but all he could offer was the truth of their shared pain. As they crossed the festival grounds, the vibrant colors around them felt dull and lifeless. The laughter of people celebrating seemed to mock their tragedy. Mark's mind raced with questions. Why had their father left? What fears had driven him away? And could they handle whatever truth lay ahead? Jake remained quieter than usual, his presence a steady support for both siblings. "You know, whatever you decide, I'm here for you." "Thanks, man," Mark replied, grateful yet still filled with a sense of urgency. They wandered through the scattered remnants of the festival, booth after booth evoking memories of happier times. The balloons, the lights, even the smell of popcorn brought pangs of nostalgia. Mark felt the weight of it all biting into him. "Let's go back home," he suggested. "We can start looking through old records, anything that might give us a clue where to find him." As they turned to leave, Mark's gaze fell once more on the crumbled note in his pocket. "Find me." The words seemed to echo, a chilling reminder that a shadow of their past was still very much alive. The drive home was filled with silence, each sibling lost in thought. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this quest for the truth was going to unearth more than just answers about their father. It might unearth truths about them, too. When they finally reached home, the quietness felt suffocating. Mark sat at the kitchen table, heart racing as he spread the note out in front of him. "What did you get us into?" he murmured to himself. Lily joined him, her gaze caught by the paper. "It's a starting point," she said softly. "We can't let fear decide for us anymore." Mark nodded, but fear was already gnawing at him. What if they found the truth but not the closure they craved? What if this pushed them further apart instead of bringing them together? As the clock ticked softly on the wall, he understood one thing: whatever happened next could change them. Or break them. With a deep breath, he stood up. "We'll dig into this tomorrow." But as they prepared to leave the table, Lily pointed outside. Look. At that moment, just beyond the window, a figure was standing in the dim light of dusk. The unmistakable silhouette of a man. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Dad, what did he want now? Did he have more to say? And would they ever find the answers they were seeking? Mark felt the room spin as the reality of their father's presence crashed into him. The years of unanswered questions, all the pain they'd bundled up like old coats, rushed forward. His heart hammered in his chest. What is he doing here? He muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily's eyes widened, filled with a mix of fear and excitement. I don't know, but we can't ignore him, Mark. Are you kidding? He shot back, his protective instincts flaring. After everything we went through? He just shows up? It can't be good. But just then, their father David shifted slightly, and the dim light caught the weariness etched in his features. The man they had once loved now bore the weight of 1,000 regrets. The sight broke something in Mark. It was both heart-wrenching and unnerving. He felt a sudden urge to shut the world out, but Lily took a step toward the window, pushing Mark aside. We need to talk to him. Her voice was firm, the flicker of hope igniting a fire within her. Lily, no. We don't even know if we can trust him. Mark rushed to her side, desperation lining his voice. Memories of their father's abandonment came flooding back, how easy it had been to be discarded like a forgotten toy. But Lily held her ground, determination glistening in her eyes. You said it yourself, this is our chance for answers. Maybe he really wants to make things right. Before Mark could respond, Lily pulled open the door and stepped outside. The chill of the evening air enveloped her, but her spirit seemed to warm the space between them. Mark's breath hitched. What was she thinking? Dad? Lily called, her voice both shaky and brave. David turned slowly, meeting her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed like time stood still. There was a flood of emotions in his eyes, shame, sadness, and a glimmer of love that felt foreign after all these years. Lily, he said softly, like her name was a broken whisper. Why no? Mark blurted out as he finally joined them, his chest tightening with every word. Why come back after all this time? David took a deep breath, the air heavy with tension. I know I have no right to expect your forgiveness. But I need you both to know that I've spent every day regretting my choices. Mark's brow furrowed. Regretting? If you truly cared, you wouldn't have walked out on us. You ripped our family apart. The words felt heavy on his tongue, almost like venom. Lily glanced at Mark, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. But what if he wants to explain? What if he can know? Mark interrupted, anger swelling within him. We don't need a sob story. Where were you when we needed you? When we were in pain? David flinched, as if Mark's words physically struck him. I know, and I can't change what I did. But I'm here now, hoping to at least try. The silence stretched between them, palpable and thick. Around them, the distance of the festival seemed to fade, the laughter and lights growing fainter. Mark felt torn. He wanted to lash out, but that deep, gnawing desire for the truth tugged at him. Did they really want to open this wound? What do you want from us? Mark demanded, his voice steadier now, but laced with an underlying tremor of vulnerability. I want to help, David said, his voice shaky. There are things you don't know. Things I've kept hidden that could change everything. Is that why you came back? To spill secrets? Mark replied, disbelief coursing through his veins. After years of silence? Before David could respond, Lily stepped forward once again, her heart brimming with an emotion that felt both hopeful and terrifying. Maybe we should listen to him, Mark. Mark felt his chest tighten, the idea of digging up old skeletons swirling in his mind. Was he ready to hear what their father had to say? Had they not already suffered enough pain without inviting more confusion into their lives? Let us hear what he has to say, Lily insisted, eyes bright with resolve. Mark hesitated, trapped between anger and a flicker of curiosity. Fine, he said finally. But this better be good, Dad. Standing under the fading light, the three of them formed a circle of unresolved feelings. Mark's heart thundered in his chest as he braced for the revelations that could either tear them apart or mend the rift that had long plagued their family. What truths lay hidden in the shadows of their family's past? And could he genuinely brave the answers that awaited him? David took a deep breath, his eyes darting between his children, as if weighing each word carefully. The moment felt fragile, like a spider's web glistening in the morning dew. A single misstep could shatter everything. First, I want you to know that my leaving it wasn't what you think. His voice trembled. I didn't walk away because I didn't love you. I did it because I thought it was the best thing for you. Mark's fists clenched at his sides. Best for us? You think abandoning your kids is the best choice? His anger flared again, hot and consuming, but David held his gaze steady, unyielding. Let me explain, please, he urged, desperation creeping into his tone. I was drowning. Your mother, she was fighting battles I couldn't help with. I felt like a burden. Leaving was my mistake, but it was a selfish one. I thought I'd give you both a chance to start over. A chance to start over? Lily echoed, her face pale as realization washed over her. You thought leaving us alone would help? There are things you don't know about your mother, David said, his voice softer now, like he was afraid to disturb the delicate balance of emotions swirling around them. She had a dark side, and I couldn't protect you from it anymore. What are you talking about? Mark shot back, disbelief lacing his voice as he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What did she do? David swallowed hard. She had her own demons, battles with substances that were too overwhelming. I didn't want to expose you to that kind of pain. I thought if I left, you'd have a better chance at a normal life. Normal? Mark scoffed, the bitterness curling in his throat. Which part of our lives was normal after you left? We spent years picking up the pieces. Lily's voice was quiet, yet firm as she stepped forward. You owe it to us to keep talking, Dad. What do you mean about her battles? David hesitated, the weight of those words heavy on his shoulders. She didn't just fight with herself. There were people involved. Dangerous people. I didn't want to put you in harm's way. As the words tumbled from David's lips, a chill ran through Mark. Dangerous? So you're saying you left to protect us from her choices? David nodded, the burden of remorse evident in his furrowed brow. I thought I could come back when I was strong enough to handle it, when I could shield you two from the truth, from a legacy of pain. But I failed. I let my fear dictate my actions. All at once, Lily's curiosity sparked 1,000 questions. What is this legacy you keep mentioning? What are we caught in the middle of? I didn't want to bring it back to you, David said, sorrowful. But you need to know that family history runs deeper than you realize, and it's not just about me leaving. There are things connected to your mother, to our family. It's dangerous. But what are you saying? Mark interrupted sharply. The anger morphed into a deeper unease as David struggled to find his footing in the conversation. There are people who want to hurt us, David said, voice trembling. Not just you and Lily, but me too. And it all connects back to your mother. Mark stared at David, a storm of emotion brewing inside him. This wasn't just about abandonment anymore. There was a bigger threat looming, dragging them all back into a history he never knew existed. Are you serious? Mark felt his heart race, the creeping fear tinging his voice. You mean to say that our pain goes deeper than we thought? That your mistakes could put us in danger again? Yes, but I'm here now, David said, the urgency in his voice rising. I want to protect you. I want to face this together. Mark was torn again, caught in an emotional tug-of-war. Could he really trust the man who had shattered their lives years ago? We can't run away from this, David continued, capturing their attention. You both have a right to know your family's truth. But you also need to decide if you want to face it together or turn away. The weight of his words hung in the air. As silence fell over them, the bright festival lights flickered in the distance, a stark contrast to the heavy darkness closing in around their family. Mark felt the struggle within. What lay ahead could either shatter them even more or reveal a strength they never knew they had. What were they up against? And did they have the courage to confront the specter of their past? Mark took a breath, feeling the burden settle as a heavy resolve washed over him. Tell us everything, he said, his voice steady, but cold like stone. The moment of truth was upon them. David looked at his children, his heart pounding in his chest. They were ready, he could tell. Yet, the admission that followed felt like unraveling a tightly bound knot, revealing all the tangled darkness within. Your mother's struggles, he started, searching for the right words. They brought people into our lives who weren't good, people who saw her weakness as an opportunity. She got involved with a group that had their own agenda. It was dangerous. Dangerous enough that the only thing I thought I could do was leave. Lily's expression hardened. Are you saying she was involved with criminals? Why didn't you tell us before? We deserve to know the truth. David sighed. Because I thought shielding you would keep you safe. I didn't want to drag you into all of that. I thought what? That we'd be better off not knowing how deep this river of suffering runs? Mark interjected bitterly. You cut us off, Dad. You think that made it any easier? The accusation stung, but David pressed on. Her choices had consequences. There were threats, people chasing after her. When I left, I thought I wouldn't have to expose you to that life, to the nightmares. Just how bad was it? Lily whispered, fear lacing her voice. David's voice shook as he continued. It got so bad that I had to break all ties. I remember one night vividly. We were at a family gathering, one of those times where everything seemed normal. But I noticed someone watching us from across the street. I had never seen him before, his eyes were cold. I realized then that it wasn't he just as caught up in our mess. There were others tracking her, tracking us. So you ran, Mark said, resentment bleeding through each word. You left us all alone to handle her mess. I thought I was protecting you. David countered, desperation clear in his tones. But it looks like I didn't account for all the pain that would follow. I can't change the past, but I'm here now. I want to fix this, whatever this is, before it's too late. The air around them grew thick, heavy with the weight of secrets revealed and emotions boiling beneath the surface. Mark's jaw clenched, still grappling with trust. Fix what exactly? We don't even know what we're up against. David steadied himself, the fear in his heart reflected in their eyes. I'm not sure who is still connected to your mother. But the people she was with, they might still want something from us. Questions surround that part of our family history, questions I've long tried to bury. And now he drew a deep breath. They might come looking for you or me. I can't let that happen, not this time. Lily stepped closer, her fear transforming into determination. So what do? Just sit and wait for them to come for us? David shook his head. No. We need to be proactive. We have to find out what connections still linger and, if necessary, confront them before they confront us. Mark stared back at his dad, confusion and fear swirling. Wait, you want us to step into that mess? After all you've said, you want us to risk it? David looked at his children, desperation turning into resolve. I need you two to trust me. If we're going to face this together, I need you both to prepare to dig into our past. We'll need the truth. Every piece. And we'll confront this family legacy head-on. Silence enveloped them. As they exchanged nervous glances, Mark finally sighed. It feels like stepping into a minefield. But if we're going to do this, we have to do it together. With a nod of agreement, they formed a silent pact. The shock of David's revelations hung in the air, the tension palpable. But now it was no longer about anger or betrayal, it was about survival. Let us start tonight, Mark said, his voice low and serious. What do we need to know? As David started to talk about the people involved, a sense of urgency filled the air. What lay ahead was unknown and dangerous, but together, they could piece together their fragmented lives to face whatever threats remained, and just as they began to forge a plan, David's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, tension washing over him like ice water. What is it? Lily's tone dropped to a whisper. It's a message, David said, his palms sweating. From someone we didn't expect. They all leaned closer, their hearts racing as David opened it. What was waiting for them could change everything or seal their fate. David read the message, his eyes narrowing in disbelief. It's from someone named Lucas, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He says he knows where your mother is. The air became heavy and electric, each heartbeat echoing like thunder in Mark's chest. Lucas? Who is Lucas? Mark demanded, his mind racing through memories. David shook his head. He was part of the crowd. She got involved with a bad element. I thought I'd cut ties completely. Lily felt a tremor seize her. Is this a trap? What does he want? David's face paled, the weight of the past anchoring him down. I don't know. But if there's a chance we might find out if she's in danger. Mark stepped closer, urgency prickling at the back of his mind. What if it's all lies? What if he's just trying to lure us into something worse? There's only one way to find out, David replied, his resolve strengthening despite the fear trembling in his voice. If she's out there, we can't ignore it. We have to see this through. A fragile silence enveloped them. Everyone was grappling with the tidal wave of emotions threatening to drown them. In that moment, Mark exchanged a glance with Lily. They could feel the uncertainty, but also a flicker of courage glimmering in the depths of their hearts. Let's call him, Mark decided, standing straighter. If this is true, we at least owe it to ourselves to get answers. The entire night felt like one prolonged heartbeat as David dialed the number. Mark held his breath, the anticipation almost choking him. When Lucas answered, his voice was cold and harsh. I hope you're ready for the truth. What do you know about our mother? David's voice came out more firmly than he felt. Let's just say she's moving in some circles you might prefer to avoid. I've got a location, but you'll need to understand the past isn't forgiving. Come alone if you want to keep your family safe. Before David could respond, Lucas hung up. The room fell silent. What does that even mean? Lily asked, her voice trembling with fear. Sounds like a warning, Mark replied, his heart pounding. But if we don't go, we may never know. David's eyes darted between his children. I want to let you both go into this without knowing the dangers, he said with fierce determination. But if we're doing this, we stick together. No one gets left behind. Agreed, Mark nodded, the adrenaline coursing through him. We'll meet him, but we'll set our own terms. Are we really doing this? Lily asked, the truth stretching between them like an unbroken chain. We are, Mark affirmed, his own fear melting away to determination. No more running or hiding from our past. We face it together. Just before dawn, they piled into David's truck, adrenaline pulsing through their veins. The chilling October air nipped at them, grounding their resolve. As they drove, the sun began to rise, bleeding soft hues of orange and gold across the sky. Each mile they traveled felt heavy with the weight of uncertainty, but with every shared glance, a sense of purpose filled the void. They were determined to confront the truth about their mother's choices, their family, and ultimately themselves. As they approached the meeting place, a run-down diner at the edge of town, dread settled in Mark's stomach. What if it's a trap? Then we'll deal with it when we get there, David assured him, clenching the steering wheel tighter. They stepped out into the cool morning, hearts racing in sync. The diner loomed in front of them, a place full of stories and echoes of old lives intertwining. Inside, Lucas sat in a corner booth, his demeanor nonchalant, yet there was something predatory in his gaze as he looked up. Glad you could make it, Lucas said, a smirk twisting his lips. Let us skip the pleasantries, David interrupted, taking the lead. What do you know? Lucas leaned back, studying them with icy interest. Your mother is very much alive, but it's complicated. You think you want the truth? You might not be ready for what's really happening. Mark felt his heart thumping, an electrical charge shifting the atmosphere. We can take it, he declared, the resolve in his voice clear. Then let us talk, Lucas said, his smile chilling. But remember, some things are better left buried. As the sun rose higher into the sky, the trio braced for the plunge into the darkness of their family's past. There would be no turning back. What lay ahead would change them forever, but perhaps healing awaited them if they could withstand the storms of their truth. Facing the weight of betrayal and uncovering the legacy they had tried to escape, Mark, Lily, and David stepped forward, ready to break the silence that had haunted them for far too long. What they unearthed next would redefine them. So, are you with them on this journey of discovery? Will you stick around to witness their every heart-wrenching revelation? This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformation because every voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.